Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Automotive Therapist. I'm your host, Scott Branford, and thank you for joining in. This podcast is designed to listen to your experiences with auto related subjects from driving to owning and beyond. Stick around, the Automotive Therapist is next. Hello, everyone out there. This is Scott Branford again for the Automotive Therapist. I don't know where in the world you are right now listening, but we're doing this podcast from the cloudy day in White Plains, New York. Here, I don't know if anybody's been in Westchester County. It's a really nice place to live, and it's a tremendous car culture here too, like it is in many places around the country and around the world, for that matter. But today's topic I'm going to cover. It's a little strange. Do you drive your car or do you hang out with it? Now, of course, I come up with these strange topics sort of to just launch the whole concept and idea behind it. And really, what this really entails is people that have automobiles that basically don't really drive them, but really kind of hang out with them. And specifically and primarily people that go to car shows, whether it's a cruise night or CNC event, out in Southern Cal there. I see them online. It looks really nice out there. Jealous of the weather, I got to tell you. It's pretty miserable here in the Northeast. But to those people, and you know who you are, you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on these cars, chromed engines, big block vets, or maybe even kind of an oddball Corvair or something. I was reading about Corvairs the other day, and they seem to start to kind of muster up a little interest lately. And that's kind of an odd car. And of course, you remember the history of the Corvair. I'm going to kind of branch off here a little bit because I'm going to talk about cars that people hang out with and not drive. I don't think too many people drive Corvairs anymore. But, that was an air-cooled Revolution car for Chevrolet and General Motors, and it was kind of spearheaded by the air-cooled Volkswagen and Porsches of the day. And there was a consumer advocate, Ralph Nader, and I guess I'm old enough to remember that. And a lot of people wouldn't know who Ralph Nader is, but he was the guy that kind of spearheaded the whole movement of declaring the Corvair an unsafe car. And he wrote a book, Unsafe at Any Speed. And, there was, talks and conversations about, the monoxide poisoning from the exhaust coming in the car and oil leaks and the car kind of driving in four different directions I don't know if people out there have Corvairs. I've driven a few of them. It was a pretty radical car for the day, when you think about it. And General Motors took a real big chance at trying to sell those things. And they had too many other cars, like a Nova or something like that competed against it, price-wise and sort of in the same automotive demographic. But I remember reading that one of those Boeing 737 MAX jet crashes that had happened a few years back. Ralph Nader's granddaughter was on one of those planes, and she was doing some relief effort for one of the relief agencies. It wasn't Red Cross, but maybe one of them. Again, we pray for all those people that died in that crash, and both those crashes. But what Ralph Nader did was he tried to prove to the public that the Corvair was just not a really good car. And it was a sword fight, and I guess ultimately he kind of won. Sales on Corvairs declined after a while. Years back, I remember coming across, and people have heard of this car too, the Fitch Phoenix. John Fitch was a well-to-do race car driver and an enthusiast from the Northeast up here in Connecticut. And he invented a car which had a Corvair engine in it. And I remember seeing the car. And, if you go online and read about it, that's probably the ultimate Corvair. So I'm talking about Corvairs because that's one of the cars we're talking about in terms of hanging out with cars. I go to car events during the summer, as I'm sure all the auto enthusiasts out there do. And there's a lot of Mustangs and Hemi Cudas or 383, Cudas, Coronets, even Volkswagen Beetles. But the thing that's kind of stunning to me is that, again, people have spent a lot of money on these cars because they're enthusiasts and they become their mechanical pets. It's not unusual to see somebody take a base model car of some type and want to putting tens of thousands of dollars into it. I remember seeing a Chevy Vega at the Scarsdale Concourse several years ago, and it was actually absolutely mint. It was a Cosworth Vega, and I guess people out there are familiar with those too. Chevrolet, that was another blunder. Yeah, the American automotive companies were really fighting against the Europeans in terms of, you know, staying within the realm of the foothold they had here in America. And they weren't building really fuel efficient cars. So they really had to rush to get cars to market that were kind of comparable to European cars. So, the Chevy Vega and the Ford Pinto were the cars that they thought, I guess, were going to win Americans over, specifically with the fuel mileage thing. Um, Remember in America, back in the 70s, people were driving some big cars around still. Whether it was, I had a 1976 Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham. And again, you automotive enthusiasts out there know what that car is. That's a land yacht. That was one of the three worst fuel mileage cars I've ever owned. The other two, a 1970 Pontiac Grand Prix, and the car I currently have right now, a 1997 Toyota Super Turbo. These cars are they're alarmingly fuel inefficient. I mean, you drive them, it's actually scary. Don't go under a quarter of a tank with any of these cars because you run out of gas. And I say that because I know a lot of people can relate that, with me, especially driving, the cars you hang out with. You go to car show with a big block vet or, you know, a Lincoln Mark 8 or something like that. These cars are never meant to be very, very fuel efficient. But, it's the style, it's the substance, it's the design, whether it's a Wayne Cady at Cadillac or Virgil Exner or Harley Earl. All these guys, were visionaries, and they came up. John DeLorean, they designed their own cars, and it was an exercise not only in just mechanical engineering, but the spirit of the soul that existed to make these cars, and the people that own them sort of are an extension to that. Uh, you go to car shows again, cars that people hang out with, and you talk to somebody about their car, and it's like the only car on earth. They really don't care about anybody else's car. And I say that kind of facetiously because not everybody's like that. Uh, but I want to know from you folks out there, what cars you have, what cars you hang out with, and then on the flip side of the coin, as we're talking on this topic, and what about the cars that people have that they do drive that are actually kind of undrivable in the sense that it's a meticulous car to drive and own, whatever it may be. Um, Old Corvettes aren't particularly hard to drive and hard to own, and actually, really, probably not that expensive to maintain. Um, on my short list of cars over the years, you know, last year '67 Corvette 427 tri-power, big block, uh, you know, Muncie M21. 355 gear, whatever you want to put on a car like that. I mean, that car was so wrong that it's right. It's if you're going to a gym to work out, you could just drive the car to the gym and drive home without ever getting out of it. Operating a clutch was like a Nautilus machine. The shifter was kind of bulky. I mean, compared to an Aston Martin DB5 or a DB6, with one of those ZF gearboxes, which that was like a Swiss watch gearbox. But the car was just about substance. It was about soul. I'm going to talking about the Corvette now, and I mean anybody that has one or has driven it, I mean, there's nothing like it. It's too hot to drive in the summertime. It's loud. It's bodacious. You'll probably burn your leg once on the side pipes if you have a side pipe car. But this is what the car culture is all about, and this is what I want to try to enthuse people about as well that can join in the podcast and make comments and certainly likes and subscribes. We're always looking for that as well. But please, please, please listen to this and tell me what kind of car you have. Tell me if you're hanging out with the car. Tell me if you drive the car. I have a really good friend. He has a 68 Dodge Charger. And he calls me every day with something wrong with the car. He had to put a new fan on it. There's some wires shorted. And this is, again, what car culture is about. This is what people talk to each other about when it comes to cars. Certainly not all the time, but it's the main conversation. And I'm trying to think about some other cars that people hang out with. I mean, there's so many of them that really don't drive. I mean, I guess a lot of people, you drive your cars to a show and drive them home. But you have no road trips planned for these things, for sure. I tell you, a car, it's really cool. And again, hanging out with cars, you're never going to drive a car. This is going to be an oddball for you folks out there. A Jaguar XJ220. I don't know if you've ever seen one. I was at Caffeine and Carburetors up in New Canaan, Waveney Park several years ago, and somebody had one there. And by the way, if you're in the Northeast, if you want to go to the Pebble Beach of the East, it's not the Greenwich Concourse, it's not Scarsdale, it's Caffeine and Carburetors, Waveney Park, up in New Canaan, Connecticut. It's one of the last shows of the season. It happens in October. You will see cars there that are just stunning. I remember one year I was up there and Audi actually brought one of their LMP race cars to the show, and it's only like a 3-hour show. It starts like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's out of there by 12, but they trailered it in on a 53-foot trailer. And you say to yourself, wow, what kind of, who brings a car like this to a show for 3 hours? But that might be, the ultimate hangout car, because obviously nobody drives that. But they brought it to the show to hang out with. So that's the topic for today. And again, I keep reiterating on this, but I'd like to hear from people that have cars that they hang out with. Again, it could be a Ford Pinto to a Ferrari Testarossa. It's funny. I've been in the business for a long time. I have some actual reaches to those cars. I've touched them, driven them, and in some cases actually sold. But car stuff is really cool. And what we're going to do later on in this podcast too, and it's coming up certainly in the next year in 26. We're going to have people contribute by the way of being on the podcast with me. So I look forward to that. Also, I'm just sort of the host here. We're going to have guests on the show, and certainly looking forward to that as well. And that's it. I don't know where you are in the world right now. If maybe you're in Bremenhaven, Germany. I hope somebody there listens to my podcast. You got a nice air cool there. Maybe driving around today. Keep those cars out of the wet and the snow. And wherever you are, I think about people all over the world when I do this podcast, and what it must be like in certain places. And I hope I can reach out to people so they can participate with this. But again, thanks for listening to us. And we'll continue with the show and make it a little bit longer. And of course, if you have any ideas that you want to kind of throw at me to talk about on the cast itself, feel free to do so. I look forward to it. We're about a week away from Thanksgiving here in New York and around the country here. Have a great holiday. Have a safe holiday. Safe travels to you if you're flying someplace. And really have fun with your family and friends. That's what the holidays are all about. Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. I'm Scott Branford again, automotive therapist, and we'll see you again real soon. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.